The open road is calling, it's got stories to tell. I've got a few of my own flowing from a deeper well. The cherry blossoms blooming, shimmering clouds, pink and white, and I'm leaving the old things behind.
Welcome to the Midlife Capers Podcast. I'm your host, Kara Highsmith. In each episode, we will hear from people, everyday friends and neighbors kinds of people, who have taken on some sort of adventure in midlife. Maybe it's a creative project where they explore a previously hidden talent. It might be pulling up stakes and moving to a new, unexpected location just because. It could be changing the way they show up in the world. The point is, they are doing something that pushes them outside their comfort zones, responding to those internal nudges, allowing themselves and their lives to take a different shape than they imagined. I hope you will find their stories inspiring, perhaps motivating, and keep coming back as we have new conversations. Welcome back to the Midlife Capers Podcast. Today, my guest is a dear friend, Olivia Hill. We met a few years ago through a mutual friend, and I think she's doing some amazing things with her life. One thing in particular that she has taken on in midlife that I think is very relevant to a lot of people who are looking at the world around them and wishing things could be different, but not knowing what to do. And she's doing that. So, Olivia, welcome. I'm
Thank
so
you.
excited to see your lovely face. It's been a minute. And the first question I always ask my guests is, what did life look like for you before 50?
Gosh, my dream was to get to retirement age and buy a sailboat and chase good weather and basically in the summertime be up north around, Nova Scotia and Maine and just eat good fresh seafood and lobster and then hurricane season you head south, go to the other side of Cuba, try to stay out of the path. And then once winter really set in, then you just kind of cruise around the Caribbean and places like that and just have a good time and just always be in good weather.
Yeah. And so that clearly didn't happen unless I've missed something. So what changed? Or how did your dream end up being deferred or taking on a new shape?
Well, when I retired from my previous employer, I went home. I started a couple of projects. I redid my bathroom. I redid my closet. I made it a walk-in closet. I took out a wall. I started doing a lot of things. And I realized that I'm not a solitude person. And so I would have never survived being out to sea for 30 days or whatever without some sort of human interaction. I didn't realize how extroverted I was and how much I needed people until I was at home alone for a couple of months. And so I decided to figure out what I was going to do. I've got to find something to do. And so the first thing I got into was Human Rights Campaign, HRC, to stand up for human rights and of women, people of color, and all minorities. But then one day, I was sitting on Church Street in Nashville. I was caught in traffic, and I thought, "Dadgum, there's traffic everywhere, and traffic in Nashville is bad." And it happens that way because so many people have moved here, and so many people have moved here has created an increase of traffic. But the increase of traffic, you get to see every time you get on the interstate. You get on 24, you get on 45 or 40 or 65, you see the traffic.
Yeah.
The one thing no one thinks about is all the other traffic, because power, water, storm drains, sewers. And that's my expertise. They've all seen the same amount of traffic, and nobody gets a little meter above their sink when they go brush their teeth in the morning that says, "Hey, Metro Water's running a little low. You should consider using it another time, or you not have any water pressure to take a shower because it's peak time, it's rush hour." So I decided that was my expertise, and that's what I decided I was going to run for office to make some changes in Nashville and keep myself busy. and use the knowledge that I've been working on for virtually 40 years, and kind of go from there.
Wow, yeah, that is something that people don't think about with traffic. I went from Nashville where the drivers were never good, but at least traffic was manageable until up until I left to LA where it's ridiculous traffic, but I figured out how to go back roads everywhere um, that I wanted to go. So and I didn't have a daily commute. So that was more tolerable for me than it probably is for most people. Um, but yeah, the other aspects of infrastructure just are not something that you think about when you have an influx of population like that. So uh, th- that's uh, that's an admirable goal to have. Um, how did all of that unfold as far as decide? Because I'm sure you didn't just decide, oh, I'm going to run for public office. You signed up, went down to the courthouse, signed up, and you were done. So, talk a little bit about that process and what you learned through it, as far as what are some of the obstacles and challenges to doing something like that. Because I think that there are people out there who look at the state of the politics in their area, or just the way the city's being run, and have complaints, and most of the time are satisfied with their complaints, but there are some who are like, well, I want to do something about it, like you did. So what kinds of things did you run into there?
Well, at the time that I made that decision, it was right in the middle of the judges race, because the judges run a different cycle, and so I started going searching the internet, and I went to every single judges fundraiser, and I talked to the campaign managers, I talked to the candidates, I talked to the people in the room to learn, how does this work to run a campaign? What's really required? And I started doing some research, and there's a company called the Victory Fund, and they help LGBT folks run for office. And so I signed up for their class, and I went to Dallas to take a class for 4 days, and it was brutal. Class started in the morning at 8 o'clock. At lunch, they told you lunch was in the hallway. Go get you something to eat and come back in. At dinner time, they said dinner's out there. Come back, get you something to eat, and come back in. And class was normally from 8 till around midnight, and then they would give you about an hour to 2 hours worth of homework. And so they cram a ton of information in you. But they give you every single thing you need to run a campaign: how to hire a campaign manager, how to do your vote goal, how to move forward. When do you run ads, and when do you send mailers? How many mailers do you need to send? Do you do palm cards and business cards? And they cover all the aspects of it. And I enjoyed it so much. I stayed really involved, and they've hired me to come back and teach other candidates for the last 2 years. In fact, this year I'm teaching a class in Philadelphia next month in April, and then in July, I think it is, I'm teaching a class in Colorado to teach LGBT folks how to run for office, what to expect, how to handle the hate, how to keep focused, and how to build a good team.
And how did your I mean, obviously you won your campaign because you're in office, but was it? Did you encounter challenges that they hadn't prepared you for?
Yes, and the one challenge that I wasn't prepared for was fundraising. Uh, Most of the people reach out to people they know and other folks like that, and like, "Hey, I'm running for office. I want to make the city better. Can you make a contribution to my campaign and invest in me?" And if I heard it once, I heard it a bunch of times. "Olivia, oh my gosh, you are so amazing. I want you in office. I think Nashville needs you in office with your engineering background and the way you get along with people. You're able to reach across the aisle. You'll be able to get a lot of stuff done. But I can't give you money because my name will show up on your disclosure, and I can't allow uh, publicly that I helped a trans person. So I can give you cash, but I can't give you anything that will report anywhere." And I was like, "No, I'm got enough stuff against me. I'm not doing anything illegal to try to do this." And
Oh,
so
sure.
I didn't do great in fundraising for that very specific reason. A lot of people believed that there was no way a trans person could win in a red state when 22 people were running for the same 5 seats. And so I just outworked everybody. I showed up to every single homeowners association meeting. I went to every single um, women's softball award ceremony. I went to and I hit 4, 5, 6 events a day, 7 days a week. I put close to 30,000 miles on my car and never left Davidson County. And my campaign manager and I had a pact. If you put it on my calendar, I'll go. And it didn't matter if there was 2 people or 20 people, 200 or 2,000. I walked into that room and talked to those people as if it was the largest crowd ever. And I made myself 100% open. I gave everybody my personal cell phone number, which I still do today. And the fact that they were able to reach out to me just to verify that it really was my phone number, um, and found out it was, and everybody in Nashville knows we have a problem with infrastructure, and I was able to prove that I have the knowledge and background in that, because I retired from running a power plant, local power plant here in Nashville, Tennessee. Because by trade, I'm a plumber, pipe fitter, welder, high voltage electrician, diesel mechanic, jet engine mechanic, boiler specialist, steam turbine specialist, and I designed a control system that's currently running the power plant I retired from. So infrastructure is my gig, and I have concentrated my term on only working on infrastructure, my expertise the whole time.
Well, I know for my entire life, there has always been some stretch of highway around Nashville that has been under construction. I mean, there's never been a period in my 55 years that I can recall when there weren't massive construction segments to deal with and that affected the traffic. And so, somebody who can bring some expertise and maybe cut through some of the bureaucracy to get projects completed, I'm sure was very much needed by Metro Nashville. So I can see why they uh, they wanted someone like you in there. Uh, well, I do want to talk a little bit more about um, just from a logistical standpoint, what it looks like to run for office and then to be in public office just as an average person, because you always think of when you think of people in politics, you typically picture those who were like in speech and debate club, in high school, and always schmoozers, and there were the people who are like groomed for it from birth are the people that we expect to see going into politics. And so when you have someone who's just an average person who just really wants to do something for their community, um, I think that resonates with people, and they would like to know more about, you know, where do I find the courage to do this, and then where do I find the tools for it?
Yeah. Well, what I tried to do is be upfront, frank, and honest with every single person that I came in contact with. Uh, there's a pretty good sized political divide right now. And I had an awful lot of folks that targeted me because of who I am. And I tried to actually have fun at that and just stay positive because that takes their energy away. They can't do anything. And and honestly, I just outworked everybody and I showed up everywhere. I went to people's places. I went to see them and I talked to them like I'm a normal human. I have every right to sit at the table just like anybody else. And I'm here to just fix the broken parts of Nashville. Um, and my favorite story was of the campaign was the day of election, and this man walked by and he said, "I'm going to vote for you. I'm going to vote for you. I'm going to vote for you." And he looked at me and he said, "And there's no way I'm voting for you, sir." And I stood up and I said, "Oh my God, thank you." And he went, "What?" I said, "I don't know how much you know about me, sir. My name's Olivia Hill. I'm a U.S. Navy combat veteran, and I put my life on the line so that you had the opportunity and ability to vote any way you wanted. And the fact that you went online to find out about me, learn the things that I know and don't know, and make your decision of whether you wanted to vote for me makes me feel like all those nights that I was over there in Desert Storm, scared to death, not knowing if I was going to see the next day, worth it. Because people like you showed up and gave your voice. I don't care if it's for me or with somebody else. The fact that you showed up, I feel like I had a part in that. And at the whole time, his wife is standing behind him going like, yay. And I'm sure she was just upset because she's had Fox News on for the last 8 months. And it took everything away from him because he had no comeback. He just sat there and kind of went like, oh, that's the same way with bullies. When you come back at them at hate, it just perpetuates
Fuels
the
them.
whole thing.
Yeah.
But when you just diffuse it like that, they're kind of like, oh, well, I was hoping to make her mad, and I did.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that that also touches on one of the big fears that people have in regard to considering public office in their communities is all the negative people that they'll encounter, because it is, I mean, if you boil it down to its barest bones, it's a popularity contest, and we had enough of that in high school, and we had enough of the mean girls and the bullies and all of that, and and so it can be very hard to subject yourself to that again, and so that's, that's good advice to just keep in mind. A big part of the reason you're running for public office is because, hopefully, the reason you're running for public office is because you wanted to make a difference in the community. And the reason you have an opportunity to make a difference in the community is because of the democracy that we have in this country, that we get to choose people who are going to serve us, not people who are going to dictate to us how they think we should live. And so it's having the right perspective on why you would go there, I think does empower you to deal with the people who would be negative and maybe even you know or just aren't going to vote for you. you know and so if you have more to say on that, I'd love to hear what, because I think
It's just one of those things that I tried to have the attitude of I'm here to get enough votes to sit at the table and fix the broken parts in Nashville. I'm not here to stand up for LGBT rights. I'm not here to stand up for just the progressives. I'm not here to stand up for just the Republicans and conservatives. I'm here to stand up for every single solitary person that lives within the border of Davidson County. And that's what I want to do. I don't care if you call me if you're MAGA or an extreme progressive. I don't care. I'm going to work just as hard for you as I would anybody else, because that doesn't belong, in my opinion, in city council. Because somebody doesn't want to say, I've got a pothole in front of my house, and then they call and say, oh, well, you're MAGA, I'm not going to help you, or you are progressive, I'm not going to help you. So I worked very hard to push that message that I was going to work for everybody, and that I was not going to go in there and try to change the whole world and work on um, all these other things and schools and all that kind of stuff. I told everybody my main thing was going to be infrastructure and utilities, and because that's my expertise, and that's what I've stuck to. I've worked at stuff with the downtown steam plant. I'm talking to Nashville Electric Service to possibly see about starting a program to put underground utilities. I rode in a Waymo yesterday. We're trying to get them here in Nashville. There's a lot of things going on, and I've really tried my best to stay to the infrastructure side. And the other thing that I did is I try to lead by example. And so instead of saying I'm progressive and I'm trans, you have to be okay with me, I'm saying that you're able to be who you are, and I accept you just like you are. You don't have to change for me. And there were several people in the beginning that would look at their watch and walk away or not talk to me or avoid me get up and leave the room when I had legislation on the floor so that they didn't have to vote for it or anything like that. But now, in a little over 2 years, I've built a pretty good rapport in a room from both sides.
Well, so going back to what caused you to move or to take on this pursuit in the first place, which was realizing that you didn't want to be at home or isolated on a boat and that you were an extrovert, has doing this fulfilled that for you, or do you are there other things that you would like to do to tap into that?
Absolutely love it. I absolutely positive. I did know that I would like politics, and I've never really given politics a whole lot of thought and process, and not really deep into politics until till I retired. But I'm having a blast. I'm able to meet people in Nashville that I would have never had the opportunity to meet. I've been able to be in circles that I could have never been in. And to me, it's the little bitty things that when someone calls and says my street light out front is not working, and I put a complaint in like 4 times and it's still not fixed, and I'm like, okay, walk out there, take a picture of the pole number, send it to me, and I will take care of it. And then get a call from them the next day and say, "Oh my God, Olivia, my street light's on." And things like that matter. When we had the big ice storm, and you can ask my partner, I answer my phone every single time it calls from a Nashville number in case it's a constituent. And we got a call at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and this guy was calling and complaining that he didn't have power and blah 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 blah, and he just super mad. He cussed me out, said it's a bunch of really hateful things, and for about 10 minutes, and then once he kind of spit most of his venom out, I looked at him, I said, "Sir, I feel you, and I apologize that you have that going on. I don't have power either. I know the vice mayor's out, several other people, and we're not using our power to try to get us electricity over anybody else, and so we're all in the same boat together, and I hate that you're having no power." And he's like, "And you answered your phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning." I said, "Yes, sir. This is my personal phone. In fact, my work phone number on the website is forwarded to my personal phone because I want every single Nashvilleian to feel like they've got a voice." And it was able to diffuse him. A lot of people just want to complain and just be heard. And once they feel like they've been heard, they feel a little bit better.
With that in mind and how you feel such a reward from being able to serve your community members the way you do you have any aspirations for a higher public office like state senator or
Yeah, yeah.
beyond that?
I'm dying to be state senator. I am looking for a hole to move into at either the Senate or the House. And as soon as I can find an opening, I've been talking to people. I've spoken to an awful lot of people on those levels. I've been to Capitol Hill and talked to them, and everybody knows that Olivia wants a bigger office. And so as soon as there's some sort of hole, that's what I'm going to take. I'm going to run for it.
What do you what do you think you would be able to do for the people in that office that you won't? Would it just be on scale, or are there other types of things that you would be able to do in a state office that you can't do on a local metro council level?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I've tried to do at the local level that's preempted by the state. So I've tried several times to do some gun things. I tried to write a law that if you had a gun stolen out of your car and it was used in a crime, that you'd be fined, and that's preempted. I said 2 or 3 different laws, and they were all preempted by the state. I wanted to write a law that basically adds 2 or 3 pennies to every plastic bottle that you buy. And then when you turn it back in, you get your money back, which will, start recycling. There's actually a state law that says you can't do that. That is illegal. Um, there's
Now,
all
there are plenty of other states that have those trade-in
That's correct. But the
things,
state of
right?
Tennessee has a law that you can't do that. So, I want to work in my knowledge on infrastructure, utilities, and roads and traffic, but I really want to do some common sense things like, gun laws and recycling and be a better environment. And the biggest thing that I want to do, and I think I've done a really good job at city council, is to walk in, sit down, and just do my job. And after a while, people will look and say, well, she doesn't seem to have some big agenda. She's not saying like, oh, LGBT rights and all this kind of stuff. And she's not passing all these laws for LGBT rights. She's working on stuff that affects every single person. Um, and I hope that, because I've really turned around some hardcore Republican folks that actually talk to me on a regular basis.
But you do speaking engagements where you talk about, um, in particular, the intersectionality of trans and women's rights. And are you working on building that platform as well?
I am. One of the things that I've come to realization probably in the last 6 or 8 months is a lot of the stuff that I received I thought was just transphobia and trans hate. And what I have learned is some of it really is, but a lot of it is just the same thing every single woman in this country has been fighting for 900 million years. I didn't know that men don't get out of the way when a woman walks down a sidewalk. I didn't know that that how horrible some men are to women. Why don't you smile, honey? You'd be much prettier if you smile, and how dismissive they are about an idea. And I know now that I have to work 3 times as hard to only advance half as much. And a lot of times you can bring up something in a meeting and say, I think we should do ABC. And everybody's like, thanks, Olivia, appreciate that. And then 20 minutes later into the conversation, Jim will bring something up and says, you know what? I think we should do A and then do B and then do C. And the chair will go like, that's a great idea, Jim. And then as women, we have two choices. We can sit down and be quiet and know that our idea is going to come to fruition and it's going to be taken care of. We won't get credit for it, but we know that it's going to make the city, the state, the country, the company, whatever it is we're doing, better. Or we can stand up and say, that was my idea. Jim just stole it. And what they will do is they'll kill the whole thing. You'll be labeled as somebody as aggressive and push back. And most men will back away from ever working with you. And so it's been a hard lesson for me to learn how to navigate all these things, of which is trans hate and what is just the normal way people treat women.
And then also deciding when using your voice makes sense and when it's counterintuitive. Yeah, I mean, it is a big battle that we face as women, and I have always appreciated, as we've talked and I've worked with you on your book, um, seeing the unique perspective you have of having had male privilege and then lost it, and what that how much more keenly aware you are now of the obstacles that women face, and how you really try to speak to that and shed a light on it.
Yeah, because if someone could go back in time to 10 years ago, me, and walked up to me and says, you have male privilege, I would have argued to the cows come home that I don't have male privilege. Every single solitary thing I have got, I have worked my butt off. It's when I talk to people about my transition, it's one of the two things that rocked my world the most, and is my first side, the left side of my bookends of everything that's happened to me.
Well, with now that you're on this side of moving into a public space and taking the big risks of being exposed to opinions and criticisms and fear and all the things, not just in your transition, but also in public office. Uh, is there anything you would have done differently? Anything that with the benefit of hindsight, think could have made the path a little bit smoother for you, or that, uh
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's a hard path for any trans person to do. You get a lot of ridicule, you get a lot of hate. I've lost virtually everything in my transition, my family, my friends, people I've known since high school, my career, and you know, and I'm not unique. Most trans people have the same thing because a lot of people believe if I could kind of go into it just for a little bit for about a minute or two, is a lot of people believe that trans people are just men in wigs. And what I tell people, my bookends are number one is I lost my male privilege I never knew I had, and the other side, excuse me, is the female brain. Along the way, the first 2 years I was on estrogen, I shrunk an inch and a half because the disc in between the vertebrae are less on a woman than they are on a man. My skin is thinner, so I cut easier, I bruise easier. My pores are smaller, so I sweat less. Because I sweat less, I have drier skins, I have to moisturize, especially in the wintertime. I lost every bit of my upper body strength within the first 3 months. I lost muscle mass throughout my entire body. My lung capacity is three-fourths of what it used to be. My red blood cell count's about 60% of what it used to be. I only put on weight right here in the hip side buttocks area. I don't know what's up with that.
menopause is
And there's so
really
many things
true.
that have changed, but the other end of my bookend is the female brain. And so many people believe that men are born with men's brains and women are born with women's brains, and they just don't, and they're not the same. The truth is they all are virtually the same. They just react based on the hormone, the dominant hormone that's there. Because 2 years on estrogen, I went to my endocrinologist and she said, "Olivia, how's everything going?" And I said, "No, ma'am." Mm-mm. She's like, "What?" I said, "No, I think there's something wrong with my brain." And she's like, "Huh?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." I said, "I think there's something wrong with my brain." And she's like, "Olivia, most people that they've had all their surgeries, they've been on estrogen a couple years, they fully transitioned, they're usually in a good place." And I said, "No, ma'am, my brain, I think, is broken." And she's like, "Explain that to me." And I said, "Well, I used to look at this fan and think of this fan and nothing but this fan. And now I look at this fan and realize it's pink. It's pretty because I like pink. Because do you think Julie thinks I think she's fat? Because yesterday I said her jeans were tight, but I meant they were tight because she looked good, not because she's fat. You know, she's seen that new guy Mark online. I don't like him. I think he's kind of a dweeb, but it's my best friend, so I got to support. Yeah, I did pay the insurance payment. So anyway, damn it, I left the clothes in the drawer. So anyway, so what I'm saying, and she starts laughing at me, and I'm like, "Why are you laughing at me?" She said, "Honey, it's female multitasking. It's what women do. It's why women are smarter than men." And I'm like, "You mean this is forever? This thing never shuts off?" And she's like, "No, no, honey, it doesn't." And so, and then the other piece of that coin is I've gained all this empathy and all these emotions that pre-transition, if somebody would have bumped into me in the grocery with the cart, I would have turned around and said, "Excuse me, do you not see me right here?" But now I'm like, "Oh, sorry, didn't mean to get in your way." And when somebody says something mean, as women with empathy, we normally go, "You know what? That's Julie. You know, her dog just died, and I think she thinks her husband's cheating on her, and she's just stressed. She didn't mean the hateful things that she said to me, and so, it's gonna cut her a little slack. She'll come back around. I've known her for forever." And so we just do that. We empathize with everything. We see their side and react based on that. And the male psyche doesn't at all. And the only thing I miss about pre-transition is the ability to think of absolutely nothing. And so when women have asked me, and "What are you thinking?" and he says nothing, it really truly is nothing. And women find that hard to believe because on average, we're thinking four, five, six things at a time. And to be able to say that I'm thinking of nothing, it's like, it can't be possible. My brain is always on. How do you do that and still live? And men can do that.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the things that I find the most valuable about your story and what you're willing to share with people is this unique perspective of having walked in both pairs of shoes. And because you're going from a place of one set of knowledge into another, but that new set of knowledge brings with it empathy. It it elevates your ability to communicate what the different experiences are for people, and um how we can all find some compassion for the road that everyone's walking.
It's been a journey. I just turned technically 7 years old a couple of weeks ago, since I've had all my surgeries, and to back all the way up to your question, I don't know that I change anything. It's an experience. I have learned so much. I have grown so much. I learned. I had no idea the power of a good ugly cry. I always felt shame for trying to cry, and sometimes a good ugly cry on a Sunday rainy afternoon under a big thick blanket is better than punching a bag.
Mhm.
So
That's true. I mean, the cellular release that happens is pretty remarkable. I used to not let myself go there, and as I got older, I learned how to be able to access those emotions without letting them completely overrun me. And yeah, that's a real gift. I have found that with everyone I've interviewed so far, that none of them would go back and change anything about the process. I mean, there might be like a couple of things like, I wish I had this piece of knowledge that might have helped me eliminate one of the setbacks I encountered. But again, you can't you don't know those things going in. And, so often on these, whatever your journey is, you don't know what you don't know. And you do have to figure it out along the way. And that learning process is part of growth and evolution. And it's part of what creates the person you become along the way. And so yeah, I've yet to find anyone who's on the other side of it, of getting to the thing they're wanting to do. They may not become finished doing it, and they may not be, you know, it may not be a one-off kind of thing, and they may not be finished with their growth and evolution through whatever they're going through. But I've not talked to anyone who has regretted the journey the way it unfolded.
yeah, one thing I've learned through life and my 60 plus years is um, almost every bad or horrible thing that happened to me usually produced something good. Like if I could go back and not marry my ex-wife, then I'd never have my children. And there's so many things like that that had this not happened, it would have never nudged me this way to do that. So I try to look at everything in life that things happen for a reason. Something's guiding me in a certain way. Uh, whether it's the universe or just luck or whatever there is. But I try to take life as it comes and deal with whatever it comes because I believe that even if it's bad, something good is going to come out of it.
Yeah. And yeah, and that's a common theme with everyone I've talked to. And I think that is probably one of the most important takeaways that I've observed in all of these conversations, that could be the most relevant for people who are looking at their life and saying, whether it's, you know, pretty much everything's fine, but now that things are fine, probably would like to try this thing that I always told myself I didn't have the time or energy for. Or maybe they are looking at their lives and saying, this is not where I thought I was going to end up. And I want to try to get to the place that I believe I'm supposed to be. But all of that takes courage, because it is stepping outside of your comfort zone. It is daring to imagine showing up in a different way. And I think that one of the most important things you can keep in mind as you are going through all of that is mistakes are going to happen. Challenges are going to come up, and you're not going to get everything right, but that is part of the learning process, and that is what is going to make you a more whole being when you get where you're trying to go.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Well, I've really loved being able to have conversations with all of these people because the themes are pretty much the same across the board. It's just that the details are different, and and my hope is that by talking to so many different people who've taken so many different journeys and tried different things, that they're going to speak to somebody out there. They may, you may only resonate with 10 people who listen to this podcast, and somebody else may only, their message may only connect with 5 people, but your unique story is going to connect with somebody, and the same for all the other people I'm talking to. And I love that. I am always telling people in my discussions about writing and the types of stories that people want to tell, there's nothing new under the sun, but the way you approach it might be the way someone needs to hear it for it to finally connect. So I
That's my
love it.
hope.
Yeah.
And hopefully my speaking business will continue to go, because I don't just speak about, LGBT stuff. I speak about, women's rights, and I speak about men and women in relationships, and how they're different, and how a woman can better understand a man, and how a man can better understand a woman. And so I touch an awful lot of areas. So I talk about engineering, I talk about groups and families and couples and LGBT rights and women's rights and trans rights. And um, I think it covers an awful lot.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Um, what um what would your piece of advice be if you were, if you were just to be able to have a nutshell kind of takeaway for someone who is interested in maybe figuring out if public service is right for them, or maybe just to help them understand how public servants can fail them but still serve them.
One of the things that Victory Fund pushes out, is one part of their logo, is um, don't get mad, get elected. And so many people believe that big politics are where everything is at. And it's the small local politics that matter. It's your school board. Did they decide, what books are going to be there, what the curriculum's going to be? Your judges decide who goes to jail and who gets a second chance. And your mayor decides, what's the taxes going to be. Your city council decides what the laws of the city are going to be. Um, there's so many things about local politics that affect all of us way more. But when I got into politics and I started looking at political numbers, it looked like a heart rate, because it was big spike and then nothing for 3 years. And then on the fourth year, a big spike. And in Nashville, there's 750,000 people here. And I won my race with 44,000 people, because people just don't vote in off elections. So uh, the short answer to that is just follow your dream and believe that you can do it. I am lucky enough to be raised by a mother that taught me that I really truly can do anything I wanted to do, and I believed her. And so when I did a run for office, I just thought I could do it, and I just went.
Yeah.
So take the step and do, and at bare minimum, you learn an awful lot. You meet an awful lot of people, and it changes your perception of how politics works.
Yeah. Well, Olivia, thank you so much for sharing this part of your world. And, maybe somebody out there will decide, y- because you're right, all politics is local. That's a slogan that I've heard many, many times over my lifetime. Um, and it does start there. And, maybe maybe you've inspired someone to get involved in their community and make a difference in how things are run rather than just sitting back and complaining about it. So I
Yeah.
am really
Hope that
grateful.
at least one person here goes to their city and sits and watches a city council meeting and learn how things go and gets involved. If nothing else, get on a board or a commission or something, but become involved and enable your own voice.
Great. I'm so grateful for your time, Olivia, and it's great to see you.
Thank you. It's always good to see you.
You too. All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
I'm gonna do something new. I'm gonna turn these wheels into wings, flying through the endless blue, finding my own way, drinking from new springs, from the mountains high to the valleys low.